got a thank you balloon up here. And I do want to thank all of you for coming to listen to the seminar. And the balloon actually is not something I bought. The balloon was given to me by my nurse in ER. After I spent 8 hours in there, we had time to talk and discovered that she's a caregiver for her father who has Alzheimer's disease. And I said, oh, I wrote a seminar on Alzheimer's disease. And she said, really? And so 5 minutes later, she found it on YouTube. And then the next day, she came all the way up to the 7th floor of the hospital where I was to thank me for writing it, because she said that session helped her so much. Now, this is written not for clinicians, but the seminar is written for caregivers. And she's, even though she's an RN, in fact, she teaches nursing full-time at a community college, and she just helps out at Kaiser once in a while. And she discovered that having a loved one who has Alzheimer's disease is a new world, a different world. And no matter what kind of a skilled clinician you are, you're just not prepared for having it in the family. And so then the next day, she showed up again with the balloon, because she had read or watched on the YouTube, she had watched the next 2 sessions, and with tears in her eyes, she just thanked me over and over again. And so I hate to let the balloon go to waste, and I thought I would come here and use it today for you. So luckily the stand that they would have taken away was here, and I was able to tape it to the stand. Well, I'm busy right now at home finishing up the bibliography for next year's seminar. The bibliography is 6 pages long, and it's annotated, and it also tells you in what order to read the books. Now, the subject of next year's seminar is spirituality, and it's going to be 10 sessions long. We'll skip 2 summer months, probably. And the title is 7 Keys of Spirituality. This is a study that I started more than 50 years ago, and in 1975, I published a booklet called The 7 Keys of Spirituality and taught that seminar in churches. At that time, I was a Presbyterian pastor. And now I've revised the booklet completely. In fact, it was all retyped, since there's no other way to to redo it. And I've revised it. I've revised it according to what I have discovered in the last 50 years about prayer and the spiritual life. We call I've been seeking all my life the devout life, the interior life, the life the holy life, the life with God. How can we live at a deeper spiritual level in a jaded world with so many demands on us? And think about it. When you're young, you get married, and of course you have babies, and then it's like you're on a racetrack. Your life is laid out for you. As the man, you have to provide for the family, and you're raising these children, and life is so demanding and complex. And I will say that I have discovered, at my age now, I have discovered that life is a lot more complex than I thought it was when I was handed my college diploma in 1962. I thought then that I had life by the tail, because after all, in my family, going to college was was really something. And so here I am now at 85, knowing how difficult life can be, and all of the, I guess like traps there are along life where you can go astray, go wrong, do the wrong thing, because life is filled with making decisions. So that's what next year's seminar is going to be. And the 7 keys to spirituality start with meditation, and meditation is the activity that should precede prayer. And that was a great discovery that I made 50 years ago, that before you go to serious prayer, you meditate to prepare your mind for prayer. So that session will appeal to more people than this narrow topic that we have today. And I'm sorry that the topic we have today is rather, sad. It's depressing to read the projections. I'm just going to present to you the report by the Institute for Health and Aging in January of 2021. This was right after COVID, and they published their report on Alzheimer's and dementia in general. Now remember, with dementia, there are over 20 different kinds of dementia. Alzheimer's is only one, but the American Alzheimer's Association estimates that between 60 to 80% of all dementia cases are indeed Alzheimer's. And you wouldn't be here today if you didn't have some connection to that disease. So let's start with item 119. In 2019, there were about 660,000 people who had Alzheimer's disease out of 5.8 million patients nationwide. In California, that number is expected to double by 2040. So that's in 15 years now, that number of patients is going to double. The population will increase by 16%, but Alzheimer's disease patients will increase by 127%. Now, how can that be? That is like a plague. This is like we're being attacked by something that we don't know, because no one really knows what causes Alzheimer's disease. No one really knows how to prevent it, although there are certain things you can do to help prevent it. And unless they come up with an actual cure, we're going to be in trouble by 2040. Now, Dr. Alzheimer started out as a family physician and was confronted by several patients who were aged and pretty much demented. And so he wondered why, and that started his quest to find the cure. And that was in the 1890s. And he worked his whole life to find the cure. And he gathered around him a group of about 15 physicians and medical scientists who worked with him to try to find the cure. He died in 1915, rather young, and his associates continued the research. And of course, that research spread all around the world and continues now in the United States as well. And they still have not found the cure. So unless they come up with a cure, we're going to have this 127% increase. Alzheimer's patients over 75 years of age will more than double, growing to 1.3 million. By ethnicity, they expect the following: the Latino population more than triple to 431,000 cases, Black African American nearly triples to 91,000 cases. Asian American Pacific Islander more than doubles to 241,000 cases. Number 123 shows that forecast by gender, more women have it than men, and there will be an increase of 71% of women to 914,000 and 68% increase in men to 609,000 cases. The gay and lesbian Alzheimer's patients fit into the state average of doubling to an estimated 74,000. Patients with Down syndrome are affected by Alzheimer's disease in 30 to 50% of the cases, and it's hard to predict how that will work out in 2040, but there certainly is going to be a big increase. So if someone is born with Down syndrome, it's not just a matter of their disability, but also it gives a high chance of ending up with Alzheimer's disease. So they're not very long-lived. Now, the current risk of and there's several typing errors in your copies that I didn't catch until yesterday. It was too late. We've already printed them. So I'm reading from the corrected copy. But it should say, instead of lifetime risk, it's the current risk of Alzheimer's disease in California. Number 126, among California's baby boomers who live to be 65 years of age and older, the estimates suggest that 1 in 6 will develop Alzheimer's disease, 1 in 5 will develop some form of dementia. As of 2018, Alzheimer's disease was the 3rd leading cause of death in California. We don't have newer statistics, but that's pretty horrifying. 1 out of 3 deaths in California. I mean, people die from all kinds of things, accidents, horrible diseases. I mean, 1 out of 3, it blows your mind away. And that is going to go up. Number 128, Alzheimer's disease shows the greatest increase in cause of death in California, growing 28% from 2014 to 2017. So in 3 years, it went up 28%. In every town in America, and certainly in California, there are skilled nursing facilities that cater just to Alzheimer's patients. They're hidden away. Yucca Valley, where I worked in hospice, has 3 of them in that small town. Who would guess? Each one filled with Alzheimer's patients. I mean, we have something horrible on our hands. Number 130, Black African Americans in California had the highest death rate from Alzheimer's disease, and the age ranges of 65 to 74 and 75 to 84 in 2018. Now, the report also looks at the living arrangements of Alzheimer's disease patients in California. Well, this is how housing will look. This is number 131. This is how housing will look for patients with Alzheimer's disease in 2040. Living with family or at home, 908,000. That's doubling what it is today. So in 15 years, it's going to double. Living alone, there are 382,000 people with Alzheimer's disease who live alone, and that's possible in the early stages of Alzheimer's. Living in residential care like assisted living, 95,000. Living in nursing homes, that would be skilled nursing facilities, or we call them SNFs, 207,000. Well, there's 207,000 in nursing homes, but there's 908,000 living with family. Why do you think that is? Finances. You would not believe what it costs to house an Alzheimer's patient. It's $5,000 a month won't cover it anymore. When I was doing hospice in Palm Desert, I went to a nursing home for the wealthy, and they call it memory care everywhere, by the way. I went to a memory care unit, and I tell you, it was like the Taj Mahal. They had their own movie theater, their own bowling alley. It was beautiful. But this was back 20 years ago, and I inquired, it cost $28,000 a month. Whew. Well, I don't know about you, but even if it was $5,000 a month, it doesn't take long to run through your savings. Now, we used to be able to get insurance for getting dementia. Remember that? Up until about maybe 8 years ago. Nobody writes that insurance today because all the insurance companies have read this report, and it's a loser for them. So you can't get insurance, and the chances of you getting it are very high. And so, of course, how can most people afford a memory care unit? You can't, and you end up at home. The government doesn't have a program that deals with this. You'd think that Medicare would cover it, but it doesn't. Not in the long term, at least. So we have a problem right there. And number 132, about a quarter of people who experience homelessness suffer from some form of cognitive impairment. And it is thought that number will increase. No one knows for sure. Now, I used to ride my bicycle on the bike trail from San Bernardino down to Riverside, and I discovered that you can't do it anymore alone because there's so many homeless along the way. You've got to go with somebody or two or more. And the reason is because most of those people are crazy. I mean, they are cognitively challenged. And some can be dangerous. I had a man who came at me with a knife while I was riding my bicycle. Luckily, I had some speed, and I swerved around him, kept on going, got down 2 blocks, stopped, and called it in to 911. And when I came back, he was gone, so I assumed the police picked him up. I tell you, thinking about the homeless population along the river between San Bernardino and Riverside, estimated now to be about 5,000, and that just keeps growing. And cognitive impairment, that's just going to keep growing. We're going to have thousands and thousands of these people who are cognitively challenged living along the river. And it's really frightening. The number 133, the California Department of Veterans Affairs identified 74,000 vets living with AD and related dementia in 2017. Number 134, the number of prisoners in California, 55 years and older, living with Alzheimer's in 2018 was 1,698. Now that number may not increase so rapidly by 2040 because the prison population is declining. It's declining so much that California is closing 5 prisons. Right now, they're in the midst of closing 5. So, that may not be so bad. Alzheimer's disease caregiving in California. Number 135, because of the progressive nature of the disease, caregiving comes into the picture at some point. Most caregiving is delivered at home by families and has to do with basic activities for living. Dementia caregiving presents physical, emotional, and economic challenges. And often the caregiver is a spouse or adult child who has no previous experience in caregiving and suddenly it is a whole new world. And that's why I put the seminar together in the hopes of providing some help to just a few people who are struggling with so many things that I know so well. Number 136, what does it take to be a successful caregiver? Two things, patience and love. And the patience part is really difficult. It's so hard to bear when your loved one continuously asks the same question over and over, every 3 minutes or 10 minutes for maybe a whole day, and you have to answer. And yet you have to answer with this in the same patient way that you answered the first time. You can't show impatience because it just sows the seeds of disaster. And so many institutionalized AD patients are there because they're so filled with anxiety from the way they were treated at home by their spouse, who didn't understand the needs of an AD patient. And I've seen it myself in a hospice, where the wife would snap at the husband, "Harold, you've asked that for 10 times now. Just shut up." And this poor man is struggling with mental impairment and doesn't understand. So patience is absolutely paramount. And then the love. The love has to be there. It is the fulfillment of the marriage vows, till death do us part. And caregivers often can find a great peace through their caregiving because it's something so concrete. There's caregiving, of course, for all kinds of diseases. Alzheimer's presents special challenges, though, that takes a lot of patience and love. Number 137, the Alzheimer's disease caregiver has to deal with emotional issues, mental health problems, confusion, belligerence, behavioral issues such as wandering, intimate activities of daily living such as bathing and toileting, and things like housekeeping, handling finances, in addition to possible medical or nursing tasks. It's a whole boatload of things that come upon you. Then to top it off, one has to patiently answer the same question repeated over and over again. Since caregivers for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias carry such a heavy burden, they must learn to take care of themselves in order to avoid burnout. Otherwise, you're the Lone Ranger. You're it. And that's a very difficult position. So you have to organize, you have to find a team, put together a team of people that you can rely on for help. Even paying for them, that's okay. But people who you can call in to come and help you and to take over. I recently was hospitalized, and luckily I've got such a team. It just took one telephone call, and it was all taken care of. So that's an important step, I think, that we have to remember. The best thing a caregiver can do is to find a support group. A support group is different than an informational seminar like mine. A support group is where you can go and meet with other caregivers, whether they were past caregivers or they're present caregivers, and you can share your thoughts and your struggles with them. And that is so healing. And fortunately, we have such a group right here held at our church. And in fact, I believe it's this afternoon, although it wasn't clear from what Sean said if it was next week or this week, at 2 o'clock. I think it's today. And I went to see what it was like. And the lady who runs it, Krista, highly talented hospice chaplain, knows what she's talking about, and she's really, really good. So and even people, if you were a caregiver and you're still carrying baggage from that, you can unload that baggage by going to a seminar. Number 139, more than 1.6 million Californians provided unpaid care for a person with Alzheimer's disease. That's a lot of people. In 2020, that amounted to 1,894 million hours of care, with an estimated value of $24 billion. California caregivers provide 20 or more hours of care per week. For patients who are 50 or older, the average age of the caregiver is 60. 6 out of 10 California caregivers are female. So those are the statistics. And I personally feel that females are better at being a caregiver. Many men just don't have the skills to deal with it. They don't have the makeup. They're not prepared. But there's nothing like the kindness of a mother's heart, and that is transferred into caregiving. The cost of dementia caregiving in California. Well, from 2008 to 2040, caregiving costs are projected to rise 126% to $153 billion. The cost to Medi-Cal for an AD diagnosis is 2.5 times higher than other diagnoses. If you can qualify for Medi-Cal, you should. But it's hard to qualify because if you're like us, we own real estate property. We don't have a lot of money in the bank, but we've got too many assets, so we don't qualify. So some people have given a lot of stuff away to qualify, but you better get an attorney to help you because Medi-Cal, they got rules, and if you give it away and turn around and apply, they won't do it. So you got to let some time go by, and I don't know all of that, and you need to get with a Medi-Cal attorney. Long-term care costs are projected to double by 2040, which includes skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, adult daycare, and home care. Long-term care costs in California are, this is interesting, about 20% higher than in the rest of the nation. So there's an idea. A friend of mine moved to the Ozarks in Missouri because land was really cheap and housing, real estate is like half of what it is here. Kentucky is the same way. So you can move to one of those states, lower your cost of living, and also find much less cost for caregiving. So these costs are usually not covered by insurance, placing a large financial burden on families, and most families, in fact, just can't afford it. The number of geriatricians, that's the doctor who is a specialist in geriatrics, needed in California by 2040 is expected to rise to 2,278 doctors because they're going to have so many patients. Alzheimer's disease and related dementias are making a major impact on Medi-Cal costs and will continue to do so. So that's only 2040, isn't that long from now? What's going to happen in 2100, 60 years later? At the rate that it's going, unless they find a cure, it's clear that we're going to have a situation where 1 person out of 2, if you're over 65, has dementia. Now society, just think about it, society cannot withstand that. And so what I think is going to happen, unless we find a cure, is we're going to actually come down to boards where cases are submitted and then they order mercy killings for these patients. Because society cannot afford that many people sick. Those are very depressing thoughts. And I'm sorry to bring them to you, but this is going to impact our church. It's going to impact not just the population, but it's going to impact the ministry of the church. And I think as a church, we need to develop more and more programs for the elderly, more classes, more ministries to the elderly, because our elder population is large now, and I think it's just going to grow. So those are all challenges that we need to be aware of. It's much better to be forewarned than to be blindsided and be surprised. These problems are beyond those of us in this room. None of us here will be alive in 2100, and maybe some will be still in 2040. But they're going to be problems for our children and our grandchildren. So let's hope they can find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. So we live in an era when we need to be, the federal government needs to be increasing its budget for medical research and not decreasing it. So the next time you write a letter to your senator or congressman, you might put that in. It's really important. Well, we have covered a lot of territory. When I was in the fire department, we had to turn our sirens off when we went by a church on Sunday. They haven't heard about that here in Redlands. So this is your opportunity to share anything that you'd like to share about your walk, this disease, this seminar, or your outlook. We spent a lot of time together. We've looked at a lot of things. A lot of them are depressing. But we've also seen the good side, that there are many cases where there's still love and joy in couples where one of them has dementia. So I'll give the mic to you now.
You looking for a volunteer to talk? I never miss a chance to talk, except when I'm stupidly quiet. It took us 3 sessions, and the determination of the Alzheimer's, or what my wife had was dementia. First of all, didn't even know what it was. Secondly, I still don't know which is the primary, dementia or Alzheimer's. Which one's or are they just parallels?
Well, I want to use the mic so we get this on the tape so people can watch it from years from now, maybe. And also for people watching, they need to realize that if they contact the church, they can get the notes for it. Dementia is the umbrella term for 20 different kinds of mental impairments. Alzheimer's is one of those mental impairments.
Outstanding. Our first determination was to figure out what's going on with my wife. And it took 3 months to get close to that, and another 3 months to figure out it was actually Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Now, we got the Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diagnosis. All the care up to that time was custodial care. That means you pay for it. So wasn't a problem. We needed a housekeeper in to clean things, and she came and helped with my wife. And they got to be good friends. So that's 6 months. The third 3 months, was diagnosing the dementia. Sounds like I got it too. Sounds like the dementia. And the first neurologist that we went to said, "Where's the port hose?" What's he talking about? So I trusted my family doctor, so I just kept pushing him. I said, I'd like to get a neurologist to test my wife for it. Did the brain scan. Then we got the answer. She has the dementia, but she had Parkinson's with it. That kind of inhibits the activity that the patient can have, that she could have, and sometimes she's practically locked. Sometimes, in bed with me, she's just locked, frozen, can't move. So it kept getting worse, so we went through custodial care, which is what I said, you pay for yourself, to palliative care. Well, when my private doctor told me about palliative care, he said, you want hospice care? He didn't tell me about palliative. He said, you want hospice care? I said, well, I'll take the palliative. Social Security paid for the palliative. That was a stop by and say hi every once in a while, but almost on call. But that's about all they did. He looked how we were doing. That's all they did. They would give her a bath, something like that. But then when it got to where she was, then we recognized. Oh, I said, hey doc, sign me up for the hospice. Man, that was a difference in the world. It was the Redlands Community Hospital hospice team. Half of them were the same people that had been there for the palliative care, but they're doing 3 times the work, and they gave 3 times the care. They had a chaplain there. He was so good, he did the memorial service for my wife when she left. That's how good the community hospital was. But that's the difference in the care, how much better it was. So all along, that took us, we had a very short period with it. It was only 16 months, something like that. So it was brief. She had a brief ending of her life, but it went smoothly, but that's the way ours was.
Parkinson's dementia, or Parkinson's-caused Alzheimer's disease, is very common. 80% of Parkinson's patients develop it, and I have just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So that looks like that a good chance of that being in my future.
I've noticed in friends, very, very few will come to you and say, I've been diagnosed with oncoming dementia. Mostly families, we all try to hide the fact. And so I had a friend who lived maybe 10 years, and we were all aware that she was not going to be thinking so good. So I think we all try to hide it.
Well, for years it was a mark on the family. It was a bad thing. You hid it.
And I just want to warn people a bit. My sister recently went through something. She's 12 years older than me, and her husband has Parkinson's, and he also has dementia, and she was his caregiver until she injured her back. So then they hired through a caregiving service, and they really liked one particular one, but they needed more hours. So he offered to work for them under the table more hours. In 3 months, in addition to what she is paying the care company, she paid this gentleman $57,000. He was scamming them. So she was someone trustworthy, she thought, but he wasn't. So she's dealing with that, trying to get that money back, and she reported him, and yeah, it's a very complicated situation. So just vet the caregivers carefully.
Yeah, it opens the door to a lot of things. Anyone else want to share? Well, it's been great having you guys and talking about these issues that are so important in my life, and I can see that they are important in your life as well. Let us have a prayer. Lord, we thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you, Lord, that no matter how great the storm, that you are there. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Didn't get you a balloon. Thank you.